guys, how are you?
Good. Hey, have you met us?
You think you're busy? Let me tell you, nothing is more tiring or exhausting than being a wedding coordinator.
Yeah, right.
If you're good, they remember you, and then they want you to do somebody else in their family. And before you know it, you've done the whole dang family. But if you're good at it, I was thinking, maybe I could make some money in that. So I built me an extra room up on top of my stable, and I thought of a name. I think I'll be Little Miss Festival for all your special occasions.
Little Miss Festival.
Little Miss Festival. So I printed me up some business cards, and I've been in business ever since. I got a little shop down on the main street in Capernaum. You might have seen it.
Capernaum.
It's Capernaum. We go all over the area, though, doing these little wingdings. So, but each of them has their highlights and their potential, and some of them have some problems, and some of them are actually kind of disasters, really. I remember this one time, old Nahum's donkey got loose. Oh my gosh. He ran through the reception hall, knocking down the tables, spilled the wine, and there was cake in the bride's hair.
So they don't remember you?
Well, those people do, and they don't call me back. But that one really wasn't my fault because checking the parking was not on my list of things to do. The one that really stands out in my mind is the one with the Jacobs. Now that's the one Jesus went to. Of course, he kind of upset me because he showed up with extra people, but he was just starting out as a rabbi back then. Some of the extra people were expected because when you have a wedding, in these parts anyway, pretty much everybody in the whole village comes, and then you got the relatives that are in the nearby villages, they come too. So some of the extra people with Jesus, they might have been expected, but the rest of them were just like fringe. So, but you know, when you're hospitality's hospitality, and you can't really shy away from your obligations just because you got a wedding in the family. So they were there. I was talking about lists a minute ago. You can't do my job without lists. You got to have a list of who's in the wedding. You got the bridesmaids and the parents, and then you got the guests who are coming. And then there's a menu, who's going to bring what, who's in charge of this, who's in charge of that, and the wine. Somebody's got to pour the wine, and you got to check the ads and find out who's got the best wine prices that week. And then who's in the wedding? You got the priests, the ministers, the entertainers, everybody. Then you got the responsibilities. Who's going to show people where the rooms are? Who's going to show people where the restrooms are? Who's going to serve the food? Who's going to pour the wine? Who's in charge of parking? And then when you get done, you got to multiply all that stuff out, because around these parts, when people come for a wedding, they stay the better part of a week. So once you figure out your count, you multiply it times however many days. A week. I know. It's hard to plan. And then, even then, you got somebody's aunt or uncle wants to come and they want to stay another couple days. Or the weather changes and the out-of-town people can't go home. So you always got to be planning for stuff like that. And then weddings, well, we kind of charge people according to how much they can pay. Yeah, we do. We charge them for how much they can pay, how well off they are. And that's how we pick what kind of food they're going to serve and things like that. But even then, a little bit is sometimes like keeping up with the Jonas. Because even though you want to be really hospitable, sometimes if you're as hospitable as you want to be, it really puts a dent in your finances. So over the years, I've been helpful. I've come up with a couple little schemes, little tricks maybe, to help a little go a long way. So like with the soup, for example, we might water down the soup and then thicken it back up so it goes farther. Or like with, did you know if you give people fancy breads and rolls, then a lot of times they'll fill up on that and then they won't eat as much of the meat. The best trick I've come up with so far is to keep the drinks flowing. Because around here, we have wine all the time. And if people are drinking the wine and they're married, they don't seem to notice. They don't care if they're hungry as long as they're having a good time. And the last thing you want to do, you want everybody to be satisfied, because if they're not, they're going to hold it against that young newlywed couple for the rest of their lives. And that's not really good, is it?
No, they're bad people.
But the best thing is to keep the drinks flowing. Because once everybody gets those drinks flowing, then they're a little bit. I can't drink it myself because I got to stay in charge. I got to know what's going on all the time. This is not an exact science. Maybe this week the fire's not burning as hot, so the food's going to take a little bit longer to cook. You're constantly adjusting and readjusting so you know what's going on.
That sounds
Anyway, this one wedding that I was telling you about with the Yankas, it was time for the toast. And oh my gosh, you should have seen those people. They were toasting everything. We got down to, they were like toasting Uncle Elmelic's third camel. How silly is that? Who toasts the first camel, much less the third camel? Well, when they got to that toast, I noticed they came out with this whole new batch of wine. Well, I was in charge of getting the wine. I'd never tasted anything like that. It's like, where'd you guys get this? So I went up to the groom and I was, giving him a hard time, and I said, well, there you go. I said, there, I leave it to you to come back and save the best for last. Oh, ho, ho. He looks at me like he didn't know what I was talking about. And then it hit me. I'm like, oh no, the wine guy sent the wrong wine. Well, I was horrified, because what's going to happen when we get this huge bill? Nobody's going to be able to pay that bill. So I go running into the back, because I needed to stop them before they opened up any more of those bottles. So I go back and I'm like, what are you doing? Well, when I saw them, I could not believe it. You know what they were doing? They were dipping it in water. And I don't know if I was shocked or if it was the wine, but my knees gave out. And then when I came to, I'm like, what in heaven's name are you doing? And that made them mad when I was yelling at them, those servants. They're like, well, that's right, that's how it is. Heaven's name is how it's happening, that's how it's happening. Well, I couldn't make heads nor tails out of what they were saying. But then Mary came up, and Mary explained it to me. She said that when she was in the back, she noticed with the servants that they ran out of wine. Well, Mary's been around these weddings a long time, so she knows that it's a disgrace to the family if you run out of the wine. So Jesus was there, her son, and she asked him to take care of it. So Jesus ordered the servants to go in and get the big water bottles. He'd seen them when he came in. There was a couple of the big water bottles over by the tub. They were the ceremonial bath water. Jesus got those, told him to fill them up with water. So he filled them up with water, and then he said, go take them to the master of ceremony, the wedding coordinator person to drink. So I bring them out. Oh my gosh, it was the best wine I'd ever tasted. It was mellow, it was smooth. But I'm watching this, and I'm sitting there, and I see that it's water in those bottles, and I know it's wine that I'm drinking. It is a miracle. This was the very first of Jesus' miracles. He was just starting out as a rabbi. He was very young, and this was his very first one. Well, I don't know how I got through the rest of the wedding. I was in this daze. First of all, think of my reputation. Little Miss Festival. What's that going to happen when we start running out of wine? And then what about that poor newlywed couple? If we would have ran out of wine, that would have been a disgrace. I just could not have lived with myself if that would have happened. But Jesus took care of it, and he made things better, and nobody noticed that we didn't have the wine. They all thought it was the regular wine, and the more they poured the water, the more it became the wine. You know, I was kind of wondering, maybe Jesus would like to go into this wedding business with me, because then we could have this really great wine list. But I'm guessing rabbis are probably too busy for that. Got some questions for you. Go find my questions. There's my question. Okay, so Jesus said, fill the water to the brim. If you were a servant, how would you have reacted?
I would do it right away.
Do it right away. What about you? What would your reaction be?
Keep this one.
Ridiculous task that he wants you to do. Fill the thing with water.
Yes, sir.
Pardon?
Say yes, sir.
Yes, sir. There you go. Okay, what does this story teach us about obeying Jesus?
It probably teaches that whenever somebody asks you to do something, you should do it.
When Jesus asks, you should do it. Think about it. When Jesus came and said, go get those jars so we can fill them with water, do you think those servants expected that they were going to be serving wine? No. So if you were a servant and witnessed it, how would you react?